Candace Stewart. Welcome to another episode of my podcast, Trade Secrets. I have, again, one of my favorite people. I say that every time. Peter Doell, and I'm so happy to have you here today, Pete. Thank you so much for making the time.
I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you for the invite.
Well, as I mentioned, it's kind of unscripted and shining a light on how people get to where they ended up in their job. I'm hoping that younger people and people of all ages will watch this and realize there's no one way to land your quote-unquote dream job, even though we've had several.
Right. And there's plenty of mistakes to be made that will get you further along the way.
Yeah, mistakes are okay as long as you learn from them. All right, Pete, so I start with one kind of simple thing to get a little bit of your background. Where were you born?
In scenic Rochester, New York,
really?
Where my mom would say there's only 3 seasons. June, July, winter are the 3 seasons.
My mom lived there when she was little.
My father worked for Kodak for 35 years.
Oh, really? I was going to ask.
Right.
Well, that's cool. What do you do for Kodak?
He was in the film roll coating emulsion department or some such.
He didn't die from some terrible disease brought on by chemicals, did he?
No, nor did he get rich like George Eastman, like punching the holes. Who was it? There was some famous...
They came up with the sprocket?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
And he retained all the sprockets and filtered all the silver off of the emulsion and made a fortune.
Wow, what a clever guy.
Yeah.
All right, so what did your mom do?
Mom was a housewife, except
God bless.
when I'm the youngest of 4 kids, and I think it was the...
That's a full-time job.
I think I was the only one home. She actually took a job as a substitute teacher.
Oh, fun.
And did that for the last few years that I was in high school. Anyway.
Gotcha. Are you? So your siblings, all boys, girls? Is there
2 boys and a girl, and then me.
And you're the youngest?
I'm the youngest.
Yeah, me too.
Which means you get away with murder.
Dude, they're already burned out.
That's right.
By the time you come along, they've heard every excuse, and they just don't even care.
Right.
Basically, my mom, as long as I went to school, got good grades, pretty much I was a wild animal. You know what I mean? You could,
right.
And also when we were growing up, you could get on your bike and ride from dawn till dusk, and then come home for dinner, and it wasn't it was a safer time.
I will also mumble that of the 4 kids, I was the only one who wasn't forced to take piano lessons, and I'm the only one who has any continuing interest in music. Think there's any correlation?
Crazy. I'm the only one in my family who doesn't play an instrument. Like all 3, I don't know, I think you've met a couple of my brothers, but my oldest brother, Rick, engineered the record plant. My brother, Steve, who got me started, worked at the record plant. My brother David worked at the record plant, but long before that, they had a band in our hometown, and Rick's a guitar player, Steve's a bass player, and David played keyboards, but more did the light show. He's a photographer. But Rick still plays.
Great.
And my mom asked me when I was little, do you want to take lessons? And I'm like, no, that's what they do. I was a kind of a jock as a kid.
Interesting.
Yeah, I would think that you would be athletic, too. Did you
Well, I didn't get glasses till 7th grade, and I probably needed them earlier because I was never selected to be on a team because I couldn't catch the friggin' ball till it was I didn't see it till it was about right there.
Dude, the same for me. I wore glasses in 1st grade, but I sucked. I wanted to be athletic, and I was, but I sucked. You know what I mean? So you went to public school? Yeah.
I went to a parochial school for grammar school, and then
What's a parochial school? Was it a...
Catholic school.
Catholic school, okay.
Right.
Yeah.
And then I went...
Did the nuns beat you?
The nuns were actually great to me. In fact, I was chosen at 7 in 2nd grade. You have a voice. You will take voice lessons. And I was in not only the church choir, but... let me finish my thought here. That I was taking voice lessons and in the choir from 2nd grade all the way through 8th grade. And, I went to school half an hour early, 5 days a week to take voice lessons.
Wow. Well, you have an incredible voice.
Well,
and a handsome face. So not a face made for radio, but...
But I was a first soprano for 3 years, a second soprano for 2 months, an alto for a month, and then a bass for the next 3 years.
Yeah, that when puberty hit, or...
Yeah, I guess so.
When your voice changed?
Yep.
Well, that's cool. I did chorus in school too, for sure. But we had art programs in schools. What a great thing.
Amen.
Amen. May
And
they
then
come back.
I went to the Jesuit high school
Oh,
to
Lord.
start because that's where my brother went. And then it was after 2 years and my grades weren't all that great. And it cost more to go to high school than for me to go to the university.
Wow.
And I had a scholarship to both places.
Oh, good for you. You got a scholarship for good grades?
Yeah.
All right.
But not good enough, evidently.
Right, right.
But at any rate, it was, like I say, so crazy that my parents were paying all this dough and I really wasn't. I was already playing in bands. I was 6'1"
Yeah.
at age 12.
Do you play bass? That's what I remembered.
I started off playing guitar, and then it was my brother who said, if you played bass, you could probably be working all the time. And
Nice.
This is when I'm like 12 or 13.
Yeah. We all worked early. I did.
Well, I was already playing in bars at 13 because I
Yeah.
was tall enough. Nobody ever asked me, nor was I a drinker at that point.
Yeah.
But now
Yeah.
I am.
Yeah. But not a lot. We only like fine wines, ladies and gentlemen. And if you have any, we'd be happy to take them. The only reason we're not drinking during this episode is it's 10:30 in the morning.
Yeah. Oh, that's right.
Whoops. I might day drink later. Hair of the dog. So go to Jesuit High School. Now,
But I only
all
went,
boys at Jesuit school?
yeah, but I was only in that for a couple of years
Gotcha.
before my parents said, this is too much money. And oh, by the way, we're going to move. So we
Yeah,
moved.
see ya.
So we moved from the inner city to right on Lake Ontario, still the city,
Beautiful.
but we were a block from the water, and you had a
Oh, how
view of the water.
gorgeous.
And it was. My parents had been living in the house that they got from my grandmother, during the Depression.
Right.
My parents got married in '38, I think.
Gotcha.
And they ended up taking over the house, and my mom was sleeping in the room she was born in.
Oh, that's cool, though.
I guess so.
But she was probably ready for a change.
I think so. Anyway, so
Were you a boater? Did you do a lot of water stuff?
no,
Gosh, I did. I grew up on a river, water skiing, boating. I
I would
it.
have loved to, but
It's also expensive, right?
Exactly.
Well, having a boat's like having a studio.
well, yeah. And then
You spend a lot of money.
in high school, I worked at a department store selling sporting goods.
Oh, right.
And I sold a bunch of, like in Rochester, because as I was intimating, there's a lot of snow.
Oh, yeah.
Skiing was a big thing, and I saw how expensive that shit was. So,
Did Lake Ontario ice over?
out only for a couple hundred yards.
So you couldn't skate on it or anything.
Only with
Great fear.
only with a helmet and a life vest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you're going to fall and freeze stuff.
But no, because all the snow sports were so expensive, what did I do? I got into scuba diving.
Yeah, right. Would you have like a dry suit to go into water
No,
that cold?
No, you could do a wetsuit.
Really?
Yeah, well, it was like 70 degrees in the summer.
Oh, that's true. I forget how warm and humid it does get in that part of the
yeah.
country. I'm from the southeast. It never gets that cold. It gets cold, but not that cold. I mean, Charleston maybe gets, I think maybe it hits 30 like 1-2 days a year. Like it's rare.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but when we have snow, it's always in March. March is fucking freezing in South Carolina.
Isn't that wild?
It's so weird. It's like real late winter. But so Rochester. So did you go into the city to play bars? Did you go down to Manhattan? Did you?
No.
No, you
just
didn't need to.
No, there's plenty of places to play within a 20-minute drive practically.
Nice. So you got a bass. What was your first bass?
A Hagstrom.
Well, I don't even know what that is.
Oh, they were
Are
Swedish.
they famous? Oh, cool.
I think a Swedish company, and it was a really pretty good sounding bass and everything. It was fire engine red with
Oh, nice.
what do you call it? The
Pick guard.
no, but the area between the pickups was like this mother of toilet seat. We would
Oh yeah,
call
that's
it.
what Brian calls his pick guards, mother of toilet seat. So was your in in the band too, or no?
No.
Okay.
Nobody else had any
Okay.
musical acuity. Although
Now-
my parents met in a thing called Sweet Adelines.
Oh, okay.
Are you familiar with
No,
that?
what's that?
Well, that was probably from the 40s, where there was all these, like amateur vocal groups.
Oh,
all over the country.
is your mom a singer too?
Uh-huh.
Wow, cool.
Yeah, so when I'd go to church later,
Oh,
we would sing bass
oh, how
together.
fun.
She was 5'5" and had a low voice like mine.
Oh, I obviously have a low voice too, but I can't sing. Dude, how fun that you got to do that with your mom.
Oh, that was one of the high points. Yeah.
Dude, I miss my parents. They're both gone, man. Man, that's the greatest I had the greatest childhood ever. It sounds like you had a good one too. We're so lucky. Oh,
Absolutely.
did you have grandparents around or were they gone?
No, my father's parents were long gone. In fact, I think they were gone when he was a teenager.
Oh, okay.
And my mother's dad was gone when I was young. Remember meeting him.
But your grandma lived?
My grandmother lived until 1980. I had just moved out here
Wow.
when she passed away.
Tough old bird.
Yeah.
What's your ancestry?
My mom's side of the family is entirely Irish.
Okay.
Her maiden name was Hayes, and her mother's maiden name was Green.
Oh, gotcha. Yes. Yeah.
Very darn Irish. And
Yeah.
my dad's side of the family was, I think his father's side was German, 100% German, and then the mom was 100% Irish. So
Yeah, you're mainly Irish,
so I'm 3/4 Irish.
which is why you have that gorgeous skin. Beautiful
Huh?
skin.
Yeah.
I'm Welsh. We're darker. I don't even know what that means, but we have dark. We do. The Welsh have darker skin than the Irish.
Welsh rarebit.
Yeah. Or Welsh on a bet. Someone said that. I'm like, yeah, that's not really a positive thing to say. So you're playing in bands. You're doing that whole thing. You're probably touring like a little bit, or
Actually,
just playing.
As a teenager, the only touring I got to do was as an actor.
Whoa! Now wait a minute.
So when I was,
Actor?
well, check this out. When I was in grade school, and I was in all these choirs.
Yeah.
We did a spring and a fall. What do you call them? Like musicals.
Oh, productions. Yeah.
Like Gilbert and Sullivan and all that kind of good stuff.
Oh wow.
And
Eugene Kelly, were you singing in the rain?
not that particular show. They did a lot of singing, obviously. But as a non,
As a thespian.
but as a thespian, I was in another group, and we did The King and I, and we traveled the Eastern Seaboard.
Oh, how fun.
Two
How cool.
summers. I was like 10 or 11. I was Louis Leonowens.
I mentioned Yul Brynner before we started today.
Yeah,
so there
you did.
go.
Yeah.
We're coming full circle.
Yeah.
So that's cool. So you get to sing, you get to act. Then you got now the music that you played. Were you playing sort of classic rock, or what were you playing at the time? Covers, like top 40 stuff?
Of course.
Yeah, yeah.
But, I'm so old. I mean,
You're
I started playing before the Beatles. You know?
Right. Oh shit.
I'm talking like the Ventures and
Yeah.
instrumental stuff like that.
Yeah.
But what was called popular music, like on the radio back then, was way broader than what we call pop now.
Yeah, you would probably have Sinatra along with the Beach Boys.
Well, I don't know about the Sinatra, but like plenty of like Wilson Pickett,
Oh,
or
got you.
like
So you'd have like R&B and soul
all
and stuff
sorts
like that.
of blues and
Oh,
everything.
yeah.
You know?
Well, that would have been also the time, in the late 50s and early 60s would have been all the Stax stuff.
Absolutely.
Would have been like Howlin' Wolf. You would have like Etta James and stuff would have been coming on the scene.
I remember when the first Jimi Hendrix record came out, it blew
my God.
mind.
I listened to Hendrix the other day. Keith and I have like an Amazon Echo in the office and generally pick what we want to hear for the day. And I had seen my friend Rafael Moreira the night before at the Baked Potato, who's a phenomenal Brazilian guitarist. This guy's such a badass. And he finished with All Along the Watchtower and Foxy Lady. I think he was going to do Dolly Dagger, but I was like, fuck yeah, I want to listen to Hendrix today. Dude, what an innovator.
I saw him the week that Axis Bold as Love came out. This
Oh,
is
my God.
1967.
Oh, my God.
At the Rochester War Memorial, where else is this? And the only other time I saw him was at the Fillmore East on New Year's Eve with Band of Gypsies.
Oh, my God, how fun.
Oh, my God.
How incredible. Well, he played out here out in the valley at Devonshire Downs. And randomly, when I lived in Los Feliz, somebody was having like a garage sale. and they had a whole box of slides, and I bought it, and it was all these shots of Hendrix.
No kidding.
From Devonshire Downs, and Brian ended up, my husband ended up, using it or giving it to the family or some shit. I don't remember what we did with it, but we don't have them anymore. But it was like, we were like, holy crap, this is Hendrix.
Awesome.
But they were slides, no one had I didn't have a slide projector. You know what I mean? I would just hold them up to a light and be like, oh shit, what is this? But huge fan, and I'll say that I think many people would agree that Hendrix broke barriers as a guitar player. However, I had the great good fortune of working with Buddy Guy, and after meeting and working with Buddy Guy, I saw a lot of Hendrix's influence, he said, came from Buddy Guy. And the way that Buddy played, Hendrix obviously his own thing,
Sure.
but a lot of what he got came from Buddy and those early blues players, which, true of the Stones, true of all those bands.
Sure.
I think, didn't the Stones bring like Willie Dixon and somebody else? They brought him to England. They'd never been to Europe before, and they brought him out. I think.
Well, it was after World War II that all these
Right.
servicemen, had an American flair for the blues and
Yeah.
idolized all those guys. That's how and then the British invasion kind of brought it back.
I agree. I
Here.
think God bless.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And God bless all musicians. That's what I'm going to say. That's a random hug to everyone who ever created music. That I think it's, without sounding too corny, I think that music is the great uniter. Across all types of ideologies and everything else, music is, it's inspirational. Cave people had music, right? You know what I'm saying? They were
That's what
beating
they
on
tell me.
rocks. I don't know. They were doing something. So when I introduced Pete, I didn't say that he's an incredibly talented engineer and mastering engineer, which is what he became known for and what he did, what he still does. But we're not going to get there yet. But we're going to find out how Pete got from Rochester and playing bass. Oh, and being an actor. Did you come out to LA to be an actor?
No.
Oh,
God, no.
that would have been so fun.
No, I got over that when I was 12.
Oh, okay. So when did you come to LA?
In 1980,
Oh, all right.
when I had turned 30 friggin' years old.
Wow.
So you do the math.
You're not that old. You're not that much older than me. I'm 65. You're good.
Yeah, I'm 74 next friggin' month.
You look fucking awesome. Not even close to that, by the way. Eddie Kramer's coming in, and he's like 82. Nevison's coming in, like at the same time, around the same time. I think Ron is 78 now and has a 13-year-old daughter.
Wow. But Al Schmidt,
Yeah.
was still swinging for the fences at 91. If it wasn't for some malfeasance at the freaking hospital,
Yes,
he'd still be with us.
Yes. Yeah, rest in peace, talented Al. I can't tell an Al story, but maybe I'll write in a book one day a story he told about Anne Margaret. But that's for another time.
Yeah.
That's for another time. But I mean, if
Well,
you're
let me-
doing what you love, it isn't work.
There's that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes.
But how I got into audio as opposed to just music per
Yeah.
se is that my eldest brother was into building hi-fis. This is, the 50s and 60s. We
Yeah.
built Stromberg Carlson things and Ico amps and this, that, and the other. And so I got the bug from him.
Did you have a console though, the kind where
Oh,
the
no.
turntable flopped
No,
down?
No.
I did. We did.
But when I went to college, I had bands, and we were doing okay because we were opening up for the Moody Blues. We
Oh,
were opening up for
nice. What was the name of your
Canned
band?
Heat, Traction.
All right, that's cool. Yeah.
Get Traction. Anyway, so the drummer in my band was in the music department, and he was in the electronic music program.
Oh, okay. What's that
Okay.
even mean? Like
And-
PA, like live sound?
No, electronic music, like computers.
Oh.
And this is we actually had the biggest.
Pre-synthesizer almost?
Hold on, we had the biggest Moog synthesizer,
Oh, okay.
but there was no keyboards attached. We were doing like, vertical harmony and this was all like. I studied with guys like John Cage.
How'd you
like
play it?
Hold on a second. Or LeJaron Hill or a Lucas Foss. I mean, these guys, you
Wow.
probably don't.
Bob,
But if you're into 20th century music, those are names, right?
I will look them up. Honestly.
And but we had the biggest Moog facility, but it was like a whole room full of, well, it would be like 4 racks this size,
Wow.
full of gear.
Wow.
And most of it was like timing thing, like sequencers and a master clock and stuff. And then there was another couple of that were all, the audio things, the oscillators and ring modulators and this,
See,
that,
this
and
is
the other.
beyond cool. I had no idea.
So anyway, as I say, the drummer in my band was in this program already, and I go in the music department with him, and this door opens, and I see these multi-track Scully tape machines. This is 1969.
Wow.
And I had already known from like playing in bands and everything and being a music, buff, that, you didn't need to necessarily have the greatest band or the greatest song even if you knew how to manipulate the audio, like
Right.
Marshall McLuhan, the medium is the message kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
If you really could create a space.
Yeah.
I mean, and this is back, we're talking.
Sonic landscape.
Yeah. But with treating the recordings in a way that was interesting,
Very freaking cool.
So I had that bug in my head from, being a teenager listening to radio all the friggin' time.
Well,
So,
that brings me to questions. Sorry to interrupt. Who set up the PA? Like, were you guys like a set it and forget it? And who was responsible for the live sound in your shows when you were in your band?
we're talking bar bands.
Okay. All
But
right.
but in college, when like you say, when we were opening up for the Moody Blues
Oh.
or John Mayall or whomever the hell we were
Dude,
doing
so
it
good.
for,
I love John Mayall.
And he just passed away.
I know.
Sad.
R.I.P.
That whoever was doing the PA was not our thing.
Yeah. It was.
We
it
were
was
just opening up.
part of that crew. Yeah. Well, that's freaking awesome. But did any of the live sound thing did that start the bug, or the bug started when that door opened and you saw that Scully?
B.
Okay, gotcha. Wow. So,
But when I moved out here, actually, when I'm backing up here.
It's all good.
I got out of college in 1972, and it's like, okay, you got a degree in electronic music. Well, I had no interest in academia. I didn't want to be a teacher.
Right.
And what the hell else are you going to do with that?
right.
At that
Go work
point.
for NASA, maybe. Ping out to space.
But so I kicked the tires in a few stupid things and ended up moving to Boston to play music. And I had actually, when I was in college, met a guy. Maybe do you know a name Barry Ober?
The
Because
name
he was
is
out.
familiar.
He was out here in L.A. for a minute too.
The name is
for a
familiar.
couple of years. And I believe that I'm right in saying that I think he passed away last year.
Oh, okay.
But he's the guy who came to Albany, where I was going to college, and working for Joel Chatterby, who was the composer and my mentor.
Oh.
And Joel wasn't available, and he told me about working at this studio in Boston, where this guy Barry was working,
What was the name of the studio?
Dimension Sound.
Oh, nice.
And it actually was closed for a number of years, and now it's been reopened.
Oh, how cool is that? There's a lot of connection. Interestingly enough, we were talking about Paula Salvatore, our dear friend who Pete worked with for a long time at Capitol, and she also ended up in Boston, but went to design school
Right.
across the street from Berkeley. But then our friend Ed Gaudreau was at Blue Jay, where I met him, which was a studio there. I met all these people. My friend Leo Malache, also Boston. Jimmy Gilio, also Boston. Charlie Turner, a lot of friends. Slightly younger, but not a lot younger than you.
Great music town.
Yeah, great town, Boston. Freezing.
Yeah.
Fucking freezing. Sorry. Burr. But so Dimension Sound. And did you get a gig there?
Yeah. So, like I say, after I got the bug in me to move to Boston and play music with guys that I graduated from high school with and played for a while in high school with these guys. And they had both gone to Boston College and had graduated. One guy got a degree in math, the other guy a degree in theology. And he took a complete left and got into Scientology.
Oh, interesting.
And dear friend, and
You know what L. Ron Hubbard says? Best way to make money is a religion. I think it was Arthur C. Clarke, Isaac Asimov, and L. Ron Hubbard supposedly talking at lunch to great science fiction writers. Let's just take that into account. Science fiction writers. Ding, ding, ding. And then said, hey, and L. Ron Hubbard said, no, man, a religion. And all of you who believe in Scientology, good for you. We accept, we love all peoples. Whatever you're into, it's your own thing. Go for it. Amen. But so for those
I
two
moved to
guys-
Boston because of the lure of my friends
Yeah.
who I wanted to play music with, but also I had gone on a look-see tour of Boston and went to the studio
Wow.
and saw Barry, and so I ended up living in Boston from 74 to 80, and I was playing music at night and working in the studio during the day
Wow.
for most of those years.
And so the Scully was 8-track, 16-track. What was the Scully?
Oh,
What was the tape
in
show?
college,
Yeah.
I think 8 was the biggest, but we had 2 and 4 and mono.
Yeah.
We had all those things.
I remember there's a great documentary. If you've never seen it, I think you'd really love it. If you haven't, it's called The Language of Music, and it's about Tom Dowd. Are you in it? Are you in it?
No, but the very first job I got here was at Wally Heider recording, right?
Amazing.
The very first record I got to work on was Eddie Money,
Oh, wow.
Tom Dowd's producing, Andy John's engineering.
Dude, my brother was probably the assistant.
No, I was the assistant.
Because my brother worked with Steve. My brother Steve worked on a bunch of Eddie Money stuff. You might, but he was at the record plant at that time, so
Yeah.
it would have been at the record plant instead of Hyder's.
And this was the No Control record.
So we're sitting in Studio One at East West, and to give a little bit of backstory, Wally Heider was the old Western Recorders. We're at 6000 Sunset, and Wally Heider was a staff engineer here at Western, and supposedly Wally and Bones Howe, but I think it was just Wally, went and built his own room, which was supposed to be modeled after Studio 3.
Interesting.
Yeah, that was what Wally told me at any rate, that was his place. Because, working for Bill Putnam and learning from Bill Putnam, wanted to branch off and do his own thing, and did it very well for quite a long time.
Actually, Wally got his claim to fame, by being a live sound guy.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not surprising.
Well,
A lot of people did both.
but the Peter Frampton Comes Alive
Oh,
record,
what a great album.
Wally did that with the truck.
Oh, that's
And
such a
when the
good
record
album.
labels realized, wait a minute, you can sell a multi-platinum friggin'
Concert.
concert performance from a one-night, one-day effort.
Right.
Why are we spending umpteen billions to put a band in the studio for months?
But yeah, what a great idea. Bad for studios, but what a great idea, and what a great record.
Oh, well, and there were many. I got to work on.
Did Wally had a truck?
We recorded the USC marching band for what was it, Tusk? Or
Yeah, that's a great
And
record.
I got to record. See here, I'm having
That's
a
all
seizure
right.
moment. Another great comedian at the Laugh Factory or the Comedy Store rather.
On Sunset. Now, so Wally had the studio and a truck simultaneously?
He had the trucks, and then it turned into such a big business that when I started there, they had the facility at the corner of Selma and Cahuenga.
Yep.
Then they had 3 studios in the RCA building a block away, and then next to what was Martoni's. You remember
Yes.
Martoni's on Cahuenga?
Yeah.
They had Studio 4, so they had 3 physical locations,
Wow.
all a block from one another.
I ended up with a couch from one of those studios when I lived in Glendale in the 90s. Well, that would have been, so did you work on the truck? Obviously you did.
For a brief second.
Okay.
I mean, I literally did 2 things.
So I was talking to Jim Scott, and one of the things he said was, he worked at the record plant, was on the desk, took a phone call late one night, and the next thing you knew, he was the assistant. I really wish I could remember the producer, but I'll look at the episode. But He got a call, answered all the questions right, and the producer who was booking the time for the truck said, I want you on the truck. I want you on my, and that's how Jim, like, got the gig on the truck for a while.
Yeah.
But it wasn't uncommon, though. The record plant had trucks. Then, Design Effects had a truck. Hydros had a truck. Very, very cool.
Well, I only did that for a second because I think my way in the door was as a technician.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Well, you had that degree. Didn't you have, wasn't your degree in electronic music?
Yeah. But still, it was a music degree.
Right.
But I had,
But you could fix shit.
yeah, I mean, I had the ability to read a schematic and do some modest amount.
Don't tell anyone.
No. Well, that was 40 years ago or whatever, so I'm not capable of doing that anymore.
Oh, you'd be surprised. So at Hyders, you got to do all that cool stuff in a little bit on the truck, but in the studio itself. And who were some of the people that taught you besides, like, who were some of the engineers that worked there that you may have learned from?
Well, Biff Dawes.
Oh, amazing. Still with us, I believe.
Oh, yeah.
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 I think Paul saw him the other day.
Both the Sandweiss brothers, Jimmy and Paul Sandweiss.
Dude, the bluest eyes on any human beings I've ever seen. Paulie Sandweiss and Jimmy. Crazy.
God.
I always see him at the golf
Tim
tournament.
Boyle.
Love so much.
Yeah. Actually, he was the guy who got me in to Wally Hyders because I was playing in a band out here with a girl they were married at the time, Karen Tobin. Do you know her?
Maybe you might have met her.
And she had a record deal on some Japanese label, I think.
Oh, okay.
And two of the guys in the band, along with her, were writing songs, for her records and whatnot. And they were demoing them with her husband, Tim, at Wally Hyders.
I think I might have met her at one of the lunches.
Very possibly.
Did they have a daughter?
Two daughters, I think.
Okay. Yeah, I think I did. Yeah.
And
Great engineer.
oh, yeah. Anyway, so I was playing bass on the things, and when I was done with the band, I'd help him run the rest of the session, and we hit it off, and he helped me get my gig at Hyders.
Nice.
And like I said, the very first thing was working with Tom Dowd. And it was
Dude.
oh, my God. Because I just moved here from Boston, where I played a lot of jazz and, knew a lot of, we did a lot of jazz there. And I'm thinking, Tom Dowd.
Dude.
He only did 2 John Coltrane albums,
dude.
right? A Love Supreme and Giant Steps, arguably the two.
A Love Supreme is, if I had to pick one record, everyone always says, what record would you take to a desert island? Well, first of all, you probably wouldn't have a turntable on a desert island, but it would be Love Supreme.
Yeah.
Without question. So we owe so much. I want to bring that up. We owe so much and stand on the shoulders of all the people that came before us and all the innovations that Tom Dowd and people like Bill Putnam, because back then, they were, still are, flying by the seat of their pants, but like a lot of stuff came from broadcast, and that's one of the things that Tom Dowd talks about is modifying consoles. Like, I think he was in college in the 30s, ended up working on the Oppenheimer project.
Well, the Manhattan Project.
Oh, rather the Manhattan Project, sorry, yeah. Manhattan Project. And then he said he came back and was going to school, and they were teaching 1930s physics, and it was already in the 40s, and they already knew that was not the case. And he was like, yeah, what am I doing here?
Yeah.
And he got the job at Atlantic and working for Jerry Wexler and Ahmed Erdogan. So he talked about that, but about modifying broadcast consoles to use for recording.
Sure.
And doing the 24-hour day or the 8-hour shifts where you'd record the black artists at night and then cover the other stuff. Ahmed Erdogan broke a lot of barriers too. They both did, he and Jerry Wexler. But Tom Dowd, dude, introduces Dwayne Allman to Eric Clapton.
Yeah, right.
Hello, thank you.
And he was Al Schmidt's mentor.
Yeah, amazing engineer. He does talk about he went to England and he's making fun of the Beatles. He loved Jeff Emmerich, but making fun of whoever was there at the time. Oh my God, having such a brain fave right now. The producer for the Beatles,
George Martin.
George Martin. Hello, fucking thank you. See, this is what happens.
Jorge Martino.
This is what happens, George Martin. But he talked about how he was already, Tom was already daisy chaining 8-track machines together to have 16-track and stuff like that, and they were still working on 4-track. And he was teasing them, like, what are you guys doing?
Yeah, right.
But amazing, amazing stuff. All these people through all of our lives that have done all these innovative things that help ultimately make your job easier and help make it to where you could be more creative with equipment.
Right.
Because of the things that they did.
And you use it to, not just break down doors of technology, but to
enhance.
To enhance your ability to make great music.
Yeah.
Like Tom, wait a minute, I'm having another senior moment here. Well, suffice it to say that there's, the ability to have multi-tracks and, like you were saying, syncing up multi-track tape machines.
Yeah.
Or,
Probably thought of it the first time so he wouldn't have to keep overdubbing.
yeah.
Probably was like, oh shit, we need more tracks. I want to catch this at the same time, right? I was talking to, again, we're so lucky that plenty of people are still with us. And we were talking about Joe Ciccarelli earlier, and he was asking about a 16-track half-inch, which I'd never heard of ever, which I guess is like a Tascam, like a prosumer thing. But in a studio, I'd never seen one in a pro situation. And so I was talking to Ron Nevison on the phone yesterday, and he was the chief engineer at the record plant, so I figured he'd know. And I said, Ron, have you ever seen it? He goes, a 16-track half-inch? He goes, no.
In a bedroom.
He goes, yeah, in a bedroom. He goes, not that that's not okay. That's fine. Wherever you create, keep creating. But I was like, okay, I'm not tripping then that I haven't seen one in a studio. Right? But he was saying, I asked him, I said, why do the mono records sound so good? And he said, well, it's great that we had 8-track and 16-track and 24-track. He said, but it all sounded better on 4-track. That's what he said. He said it just sounded better. He said that the dynamics and the harmonic was just better, bigger, cleaner. I mean, think about that. You listen to those records, like early Mamas and Papas or something, or Beach Boys, right? Or anything from that time. And it's so loud and clear. And now everybody, Atmos and all the things they do, which is great. It's all great. But I'm like, wait a minute. That mono thing sounded fucking awesome.
Well, some of it, too, is the arrangements.
Well, hello. Yeah. And the performance.
Right. But, I mean, as far as... I remember the first time I got to work with a great arranger like Peter Matz. Mm-hmm. Did you remember that name? Mm-hmm. And it was like, you're listening to the first fucking thing you're recording that day, and you go, man, what did I have for breakfast? I'm a fucking genius. Listen to this.
Yeah.
This sounds incredible.
Yeah.
Because the guy who's the arranger, he puts so you can hear everything. It's not like you have to carve out the guitar and put it over there, and everything just.
That's what I'm saying. You could hear everything.
Yeah.
And then I always say this, and Pete is living proof. We have to shout out to all these engineers and all these people, the people behind the glass that. I mean, I'm a huge champion, as you know, of engineers. But you guys are responsible. I mean, musicians can write it. They can sing it. We can't do it without the artist. But if there's no one there to capture it, no one's going to hear it, Right. And you guys used your musicianship, in your case, in many people's cases, use your music knowledge, your love for music, and your appreciation for it to make it better.
I do feel kind of sad for the kids of today who want to turn themselves into have a career in engineering.
Yeah.
Because there's no opportunity like I had, where you got to sit at the feet of a Al Schmidt or a Bill Schnee or this guy or that or Joe Ciccarelli, and learn without having to spend hours, like trying to learn shit off YouTube, and then remember what that was in, what I mean? It's a whole other ballgame now.
Well, it is and it isn't. I mean, I'm sort of like, I won't say last man standing because there's a lot of great studios still, Sunset, Village, etc.
How about record plant closing?
Yeah, record plant closing, sad. We'll see though. Could resurrect. We'll see what happens there.
Same with Capitol.
Yeah, but I think Capitol's going to reopen.
So they got rid of everyone.
So they say. Well, they're rehiring people already though. But I think that was to bust that union, a lot of that. But anyway,
Absolutely.
we still here, and I think I was telling you earlier off camera, engineer did a session yesterday, was an alum who came up. So for me, I never really thought about it this way, and I just started realizing it this year. I've basically been training or having my clients, building my future clients, because when I started 35, 38 years ago, I never knew that the people that were runners or assistants then would end up be the people that would be booking time with me now.
Sure,
and I'm
right.
so lucky. Dude, I'm so lucky because I get to work in this beautiful place where we still have great arrangers and we still do orchestral dates and we got Keith is my assistant and my trusty steed who's recording the audio today, and we have Nate doing the video. He's rad. But super, without these guys, I couldn't do any of this. Again, back to the people behind the scenes. But I was going to say that Keith has a master's in trombone.
Oh.
Yeah, and he's a great engineer, become a really fine engineer. But he's working next week with our friend Nick Marichal, and it's real B3 player, real drums, everything's real.
Playing in the same room.
Yes, in the same room together, and they'll overdub, but they're in this big room, which is a lot to handle, actually. It's a tiger to be tamed, Studio One. It's large. It needs, we call them meat sacks. That's not really too romantic, but it needs bodies. It needs, bodies to fill the space and to sound its best. It needs about 20 people in it. But so when you were playing music at night and you're working at the studio during the day, did you eventually you gave up playing because you probably were exhausted?
Well, no. When I was in Boston, I sort of ran out of growing room. And then I thought, well, I could either move.
Big fish, small pond.
Yeah, I could either, musically it was great, but recording studios at that point,
Yeah.
45 years ago or whatever, the Cars had a studio. But all the really big records, people would just go to New York. It's, 2 hours down the road,
Yeah.
for God's sakes.
Yeah.
So I ended up coming out to L.A. after I came out for a look-see and decided that...
You wanted to be warm for a change.
Yeah, I was also, I gotta say, I was really grateful that I didn't grow up out here because, when you're freezing your butt off, you stay in the house and you practice.
Oh, God.
Here I'd be,
Chasing girls at the beach.
Yeah, surf's up, dude, come on.
And your fair Irish skin wouldn't have allowed it.
No. And I'm melanoma man now.
You're doing all right. You're looking
right.
good.
Amen.
You're keeping it at bay. All I know is you're doing something right. You look fantastic. But you did. You made a choice at some point in time when you were working in the studio and playing. Like,
Right.
was that heart-wrenching or?
What, to give up playing?
Yeah. Not really, I guess.
No, in fact, what I remember one of the first weeks I was at Wally Hyder's, I was doing a date and the bass player didn't show.
Perfect.
And I got to play with Denny Sywell,
Oh, yeah.
who was in Wings. And,
Wings, yeah.
And forget who the artist was, but we ended up doing a performance. It must have been some kind of country thing.
You should see if you have royalties on that.
No, we did it at the Palomino.
Oh, fun.
Right?
By where I live now.
I'm trying to remember the artist.
Close.
name.
Great club.
But whatever. I mean, so I had a few kind of blurred
Was it like
lines.
a country western vibe?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. So you still got to play sometimes.
Yeah, I did a couple of those things, but mostly it was like,
Yeah.
it really wasn't a tough decision
Gotcha.
which way I wanted to turn.
So now, and I want to try to, we can always do a part two, but I want to try to get to where, so when did you go straight from Hyder's to Capitol? Or what happened? How did you end up at Capitol? Oh, yeah, Pete worked at Capitol.
Yeah. I worked first at Hyder's.
Yeah,
And then I went to the Sunset Sound Factory right next door,
which I love so much.
right? Which
Yep.
is now not Sunsets anymore. It's a standalone company, whatever it is.
Yeah, Sunset Sound is there.
Yeah, but the
Oh,
sound...
you know about Sound Factory.
Sound Factory.
Sound Factory's still a studio. My friend
Right.
Leo from
But
Boston has has rooms there.
Right, but it isn't owned by Sunset Sound any
No.
longer, right?
No.
That's long ago.
No.
But I worked there for a year and a half as a tech,
Okay.
and then I was, doing dates.
Yeah, Sound Factory's on Selma and Ivar.
Right.
Yeah, so
Right
and-
next to the Ivar Nude Theater at the
Yes,
time.
the Ivar Theater that Tom Waits talks about.
And now that is owned by the LA Film School.
The ticket taker. There's a line in a Tom Waits song. I was a ticket taker at the Ivar Theater. Right, that's a great line. But yeah, just so you know, Sound Factory's still there, and my friend's developing artists there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you went to.
I went
Sunset Sound is still there, but Sunset Sound owns Sound Factory. Doesn't anymore, but they're both still open, everybody.
Right.
And so you went Hyder, Sound Factory, Capitol?
Right. And a couple of the guys who I worked with at Hyder's had immediately gone to Capitol because they had
Who
an
was
in
that?
over there.
Who was that?
Christina Picari. do you
Okay,
know her?
yes.
And the late, great Bob Shames.
Oh,
Did you know him?
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So those guys went over there first, and I got the job right next door, if you will. And then, something happened over there at Capitol that I could go in, and that was a union job.
Yep.
So it was significantly better as far as the benefits and the
There-
hourly pay.
There
and
is no
everything.
recording engineer union, and much to our chagrin, actually, it would be great if there was one. But at that time, the union that Pete speaks of was a grandfathered in, basically electricians type of union.
IBEW.
Right, was electricians, right?
Yeah,
From
electrical
was it from the
workers.
40s?
Well, I think it came out from when Capitol moved from New York.
Right.
The union came along with it.
Okay, that makes sense. And just for your knowledge, Capitol's been closed for a couple years for earthquake retrofitting. I do fully believe they are going to reopen. It may just be that they do universal artists. Time will tell. But one of the reasons, besides making the structure more sound against earthquakes here in California, there's a huge fault that runs under Vine Street, by the way.
Yeah.
A huge, huge fault. But anyway, was to bust that union.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The contract had a line in it that says if the studios are closed for a year and a day, the contract is null and void.
Yeah.
Where did
Yeah,
they come up with that?
exactly. Yeah. So they got
Universal's- rid of everybody.
Yeah, Universal's no dummy. Yeah, it was a bit unceremonious, I won't lie. Some people survived, and will return there. Angelo and some other people will go back and work at Capitol. But I work with Steve Genowick all the time, also alum, who's coming in. I see Bill Smith. So you're at Capitol. Now, did Capitol have their own mastering at that time?
They sure did.
Okay.
But I wasn't.
Yeah.
Didn't have any
You were
interest
working in
it.
the studio. I get it.
Yeah, I was doing all sorts of big things there.
What are some of the cool things that you did when you worked at Capitol?
Well, let me look.
Oh, good. That's a good thing that you have that there. It's fun.
I got to do. To me, the high watermark that I got to record was I got to do the Miles Davis 2-2 album.
Oh, dude.
Not too shabby. I was supposed to do one day, right? I'm having another
Were you
scene.
the assistant, or did you get to record?
No, I was the first engineer,
Yes.
and
Dude,
it
that
was-
record sounds great. Fuck, I had no
Oh,
idea you
hell
did
yeah.
that. I'm gonna tell the whole world. The whole world. Pete
But-
Dell did Miles Davis too.
well, I did all the LA stuff,
Gotcha.
right? And then they finished it, I think, in New York. But I was supposed to do one day. I was working with Tommy LaPuma on a George Benson record. He says, Tuesday we're going to do a date with Miles.
Oh yeah, just
Thinking,
casual.
Miles Standish? Miles Copeland? You don't mean Miles fucking Davis. Yeah, Miles fucking Davis.
Nice.
And
By the way, that's his name, Miles fucking Davis.
and so Marcus Miller
Great.
was
Wonderful player.
in addition to being a wonderful player, he was, he had been in Miles's band, so he was the conduit
Oh, gotcha.
to get the music. And in fact, we were going to do a horn overdub on a track of Miles, or a track of Marcus's rather. And anyway, I won't get into too much detail, but suffice it to say, I screwed up. And I got to work with him for 16 days instead of one.
I don't think it's a screw up, Pete.
Yeah,
I think this is a
it's the best-
positive.
it's the best thing I ever did
Happy
in my
accident.
life. Yeah, absolutely. And, I got to work with Toto, Richard Marx, Dwight Yoakam.
Oh.
Frank Sinatra did the two duets records just as an
Amazing.
assistant because that was Al Schmidt.
Yeah. Yep.
Poco, Marcus
Oh, I love
Miller.
Poco.
Yeah, we did with David Cole producing.
Dude, what a great. I love him too. I love
Yeah.
David Cole.
Yeah, and Barbara
I love
Streisand-
everybody. No.
Barbara Streisand, Phil Collins, Joan Baez.
Oh my goodness.
You know, Bob Seger.
Not too slouchy. Pretty
Yeah.
good there.
They're
pretty good
But
track
I was
record.
there 15 years, so there was plenty of time to do all these
Well,
things.
and on every session, and I know you're going to agree, you probably learned something on every session.
Oh God, yes.
You know, not just, I mean, besides having to be technically astute, I bring this up a lot, you got to be a good hang and have a good vibe. And Pete is all those things, you know, but you must have, I mean, doing that date with Marcus Miller and doing that stuff for Miles Davis. I mean, dude, you probably learned tricks left and right.
Oh yeah, and you know, who was I talking about this the other day? I bet you do have these self-mixer things for the headphones here at the studio.
Yeah. I think they're bad. People shouldn't have control over their headphones.
Right.
Is that bad to say?
So the idea with these self-mixer things is, you know, like you have a pair that are the drums, and here's the bass, and here's the guitar, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, let's say you're doing a vocal session,
Yeah.
right? Just a vocal over them. Look, I make my mix. So all you need is these two faders. And if you need more of yourself, it's this. And then
Right.
there's these other faders.
Don't touch the other
Don't
shit.
touch that other
Yeah.
shit, right?
Just tape
and
over
then,
it.
like 8 minutes into the date, I can't hear myself. I can't hear my... And you go out and they got all the faders
And
on
they're
12.
listening. Yeah. Yeah.
Fuck, what did I tell you?
Well, musicians don't listen, but we knew that.
Well, again, you know, if the engineer is controlling your mix,
Trust.
so many times people, the singers, will be sharp if they're hearing too much of themselves,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, like, if I hear them being, I can police the performance. I turn them down, push the piano, some pitch thing.
We're doing this for your help, people. Let
Yeah.
the engineer do his thing.
Well, not only that, having a musical background, it's not like if you're just a fader jockey. If
Yeah.
you have to know, we're here to make the music better.
Yeah.
Right? And if the singer is like drifting into a bad area, you can help
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
you're making the headphone mix.
And we're not talking about auto-tune. We're talking about just helping them during their performance.
Yeah, it's because, you know, and this happens all the time, that people who are really good singers have a pitchy line or two because their perspective in their headphones is off.
Sometimes it can help with the emotion of the song if it's not perfect. Sometimes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, if,
No,
it isn't- if
absolutely.
you don't step on the duck completely, you know what I mean? Yeah. Sometimes you hear that crack or that emotion during the performance and you go, oh man.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? But yeah, trust the engineer, people. It's
Well,
all
just
I'm
like I was saying, a lot of it, some of the technological improvements
Yeah. Yeah.
don't really help you
No.
at times.
Well, let's also say that if you're going to commit to a life of making music and want to make it as an artist, be the best you can be. Rehearse, 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 rehearse. You know, practice. Don't look to have everything fixed. Why would you want to fix it? If you have everything fixed, you suck. You know what I mean? Get it right.
That was our joke when auto-tune became the norm.
yeah.
It's like, the first take is, hey guys, that really sucked. Come on in.
Yeah, that's the bad
Because
joke.
we're going to fix it, with auto-tune or whatever.
So, how did you go from, and I've known you for a long time and knew you did some amazing stuff, but didn't realize half of the crazy cool stuff that you did, so good on you. So when did you get from, or where did you make that transition from recording engineer to working in mastering?
Well, I worked at Capitol from 83 to 99, and from 99, I was hired at Sony Pictures, and I got into scoring,
Oh, okay.
right, on the Sony scoring stage. So I
Another
went
great
from,
skill set.
which is, it's another thing. And, it was fun for a while because, a small band was 86 pieces.
Yeah,
That's a small
exactly.
band. I think the biggest one we ever did was Amistad, where it had a 150-piece
What a
band
great movie.
and a 50-voice choir,
Dude, what a great movie.
and it was all live.
Oh, Jesus.
All live.
A lot of pressure, by the
A
way.
lot of pressure.
Yeah, union players.
But the room, you had a 150-piece orchestra, a 50-voice choir, and you could still play a full 5-on-5 basketball game
Yeah,
in that same room.
this is a big room and not that
yeah,
big.
Yeah, no. But
It didn't speak to you after a while, huh?
well, it was so political,
Oh yeah, that doesn't
so
surprise me.
political, and
But a union gig, that gig.
oh yeah, and
One
it
of the
was
few union gigs in recording is the scoring world.
yeah, and that I had to join a different union to get that job, and I had to join IATSE.
Yeah.
And all, which is the
Were you a Y1?
I was a Y4.
Okay. That's 4 times better.
No, no, I was the I was actually the recordist for a while,
Right.
and which is a Y7, but I got paid Y4, which is the technical.
Oh,
thing,
nice. Yeah,
'cause
smart
they had to pay
fella.
me more.
Smart fella.
So it was, so political. I really didn't enjoy it there, and then I ended up getting a job at Universal Mastering, but I was
So
gonna,
you never mastered at Capitol?
no,
Oh, okay.
no, and I wasn't going to be mastering at Universal Mastering. I was going to be running, because I had this experience of working in 5.1 in the movies world.
Yes.
I was going to be opening this mix room there that was going to be all, doing 5.1 catalog remixes.
I saw your room. I remember it.
And they ended up not doing that.
Bummer.
So what was I going to do? I had to look around, and then I ended up, figuring out how to do mastering. That, Eric Lapson, I don't even remember him,
Yeah.
but he was the one and only mastering engineer at the time. And so I started, cutting his parts and, looking over his shoulder, and I learned it that way. But having the experience of knowing what good sounds are,
Right.
and, what music should feel like you were intimating earlier,
Yeah.
that's what you could bring to the table. And when I was at Universal Mastering, I had a spectacular room.
I loved
And-
your room there.
And, I was also, this is during the era when Guitar Hero and Rock Band
Yeah.
ruled the roost. And, Universal, we had like 80 some labels. So we had tons of stuff that I got to mix for the game,
Oh, right.
tons and tons of stuff, everything from the Allman Brothers to Nirvana to, all these big records.
God, you've really done everything you can possibly do in our world of recording. A little bit of the truck, the recording studio, the scoring stage, mastering, now video game. You've really pretty much done everything.
Yeah, that's why it's time to say, check, please.
No. It's awesome. It's awesome. So, well, I was going to say about mastering, everything you touch is amazing. I've never heard anything negative ever. Honestly, never heard anything bad ever. Our dear friend Nick Doffelmeyer, who worked with you at Universal, we love him. Shout out to Nick. But he must have been an incredible, not really a boss, but boss. And
Yeah, we worked together before that at Capitol.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. I didn't know that, but that makes sense. But I talked to Bob Ludwig, great mastering engineer, one time, and he said to me, Candace, really, if the engineer's doing his job, by the time the music gets to me, he goes, I shouldn't have to do much. He goes, I sprinkle my fairy dust on it. He didn't
Right.
say that, but he said, I shouldn't have to do much. And he said, if it's well recorded, other than sequencing, he said, my job is pretty much almost done. Would you agree?
To the largest extent possible, absolutely. But let's face it, that isn't the real world. I mean, Bob is lucky because that all the great producers and the great artists come to him.
Well, it's like I teased Tom Lord Alge. He's such a talented engineer for sure. I said, well, it probably didn't hurt that you got to do Stevie Winwood. You know what I mean? It wasn't like back in the high life, like that band sucked.
Right.
And you had to, fix it. You just had to sort of let it happen. A great engineer, though.
Nowadays, there's plenty of great mixers, but there's also plenty of things that, for whatever reason, they get through, and it's not that like this is out of tune or it's out of time, but sometimes it is. But sometimes the mixes just don't have the emotional payoff that you think it could or should, and you goose.
You can tweak that, huh?
Well, you can goose the transitions between verse and chorus or whatever, so that things emote.
So you're re-EQing and changing.
Not so much EQing as it is, like making the transitions go stand up and
Are
salute.
you changing their mix?
No, I'm making it pay off better. I mean, I remember
Just remember, don't ever piss Pete off if you're a mixer because he'll fuck up your mix.
No.
I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding.
No, but
Totally kidding.
when I first got into mastering and I'd have something in front of me done by somebody who I really respect, man, this sounds great. And you try to just make it a couple of dB louder and, no harm, no foul. And then they say, hey, the fuck, you're supposed to take it the other 10%.
Oh.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, they want you to, they want that help.
They want you to assert, take it to the next level.
That's trust.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you realize that, it's not an insult to you're playing along too.
Well, they gave you their baby, and all you did was just you put a hat on the baby before the baby went outside in the cold.
Well, certainly not just the the music that comes across my desk nowadays is a lot more, people who are not
Pro
and have done it all day, every day for the last 40 years.
Right.
These are people who possibly learned on YouTube, and
Is that
so
frustrating?
they need the stuff actually needs some love.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't necessarily.
Pete is here to give the love.
Yeah,
Seriously.
That's what we're hopefully hired to do, is to make it continue on the next car of the love train.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. We're on the love train. So what? So I'm assuming. I know you went to Aftermaster for a minute.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and then and Pete is for hire, by the way. If you have something,
21st Century Audio. That's my company.
I was just gonna say, yeah. How can we get in touch with? But if you want to get in touch with Pete, you can always reach out to me as well. It would be impossible to encapsulate a person's life in an hour and a half, but we've done a pretty good job here. We have gone from Rochester childhood, parochial school, then Jesuit high school. He's an actor. He's a singer. And when I first started doing these before, I didn't have video, and I always say, and he's good looking, but you can see him. So, and he is very handsome and very lovely and wonderful. So then you're an actor.
How much do I owe you? Is that 20, 50?
No,
Was
it's
that-
all good. And then, so many people made the transition from musician to engineer, which is only going to make you a better engineer.
Absolutely.
And then, but you really did do it all, Pete. You did it all. You pretty much worked, and still do, worked in every aspect. Because a lot of people get into recording and they stay in a narrow lane. They don't, and then that's fine if that's what you want to do.
Yeah.
But I think it's very cool that you worked in all these different aspects of what we do. Because sometimes here, one of the things I try to stress at a recording studio like this, obviously we do very many types of music and genres of music. So if you work here as a staff guy, you have the opportunities that you had, where you're working on jazz, you're working on a big band, you're working on an orchestral date, you're doing a hip hop vocal, and you're learning the flow of each of those types of sessions. It's never going to be bad to know more.
Absolutely.
And to find what you dig. We talked about John Coltrane, Love Supreme earlier, Miles Davis, I do not know much about jazz, but I listen to jazz all the time. I listen to 88.1. My husband knows much more than I do. But I never realized being, coming up in the late 60s, early 70s, sort of being a classic rock baby or British invasion lover, how much I would love jazz. And then I'm just realizing, and I'm not talking about the SMOOVE jazz. I'm not talking about smooth jazz, but stuff like Miles Davis. And I think, didn't Dizzy Gillespie just pass? I think, but anyway, but Dizzy Gillespie, Mingus, John Coltrane, those of you listening to this, if you're young and you don't know who that is, find out. Go listen to Miles Davis. Go listen to John Coltrane. Shit, go listen to Howlin' Wolf. Listen to all of it. Listen to blues. Listen to R&B. Listen to pop. And if you want to get into this world, don't think, oh, I'm going to be a producer, a hip hop producer, a mixer. That's fine. I wish you well. But you can't be your best if you don't get exposure.
Yeah.
I don't think you
Yeah, and also you don't want to paint yourself into a corner thinking that
make yourself
all,
unemployable.
all I look is like is all I want to hear is, you know, this hip hop or Americana or blue, you know,
Whatever it is.
narrow lane
Yeah.
your own musical taste is, you're limiting yourself
Absolutely.
by an incredible amount.
And
But-
you're not doing right by your clients. You know.
Well, right.
Essentially. You know. I think we're going to have part 2, 3, and 4 of Pete. I think there's so much more to talk about. This is Candace Stewart, and this is my podcast, Trade Secrets. And Peter Doell, in this episode, this is just a continuation of the magic that Pete Doell has lent to our industry. Basically, what we want to just mention that we haven't quite gotten to yet in our previous chat was one of the most incredible things that Pete has done in unifying all of us crazy pro audio people, both studio people, manufacturers, engineers, producers, managers, etc., is he's had an audio lunch for 9 years straight, every Wednesday without fail.
Every Wednesday. Well,
Zoom. We Zoomed during COVID.
resumed during COVID, and you know, like sometimes, like the day before Thanksgiving, which is always a Wednesday.
Right.
I have sometimes canceled it because people are out of town or they're cooking or whatever.
Did you ever wear a regular shirt and pajama bottoms while eating PBJs at your house?
Always. That's standard attire at my house. Yeah.
Well, I think anybody who's listening to this or watching this, if you're an LA person, you've been to this lunch, and it's at Berrigan's Restaurant.
in
I guess it's
scenic Burbank.
in scenic Burbank. Yeah. The food is great. We love the restaurant, the people at the restaurant. But huge shout out to the staff at Berrigan's. They are, without question, some of the nicest people and the best service and good food. I think it's great.
Absolutely. And don't pass over the important distinction of being half-price margaritas on Wednesday.
Oh, yes, half-price margaritas on Wednesday, brought about entirely by the audio lunch. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for that perk. There are a few events that happen around town, and Pete's part of most of them, actually. There's a Friday night happy hour that you're a part of with Bridget Gardner that's very cool,
Right.
and Gavin Lurson. And I think we're doing something next week. This podcast won't come out probably until next year. But at any rate, just I want to really emphasize, I've talked to people in Nashville and Atlanta and some of the other cities, New York, et cetera. And I find that the LA community is very cohesive. You know, we're a small but proud group, and we really try to help each other. And I've noticed in some of the other markets, they're not as keen to do that. They're a little bit more threatened or a little bit more proprietary.
Right.
And I think that this lunch is an example of the community and all the cross-pollination that happens. I mean, you'll go to one of these lunches and you'll be having trouble with a piece of gear, and there'll be some guy at the lunch that'll go, oh, I know where to get the part for that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's literally that type of vibe.
Well, there's that, but it's not completely geeky.
No, not at
I
all.
mean, my feeling is that who you'll find at these lunches is everybody you'd see in the hallway at a recording studio
True.
or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
We have acousticians, we have music publishers, we
Artists.
have studio designers, studio managers,
Yeah.
engineers of all stripes and all that. And you're not going to find yourself seated at a table where people are talking about various kinds of dither.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, it's not that
really
dweeby.
geeky. No. It's,
Yeah.
You know,
It's a little bit gossipy in a fun way.
Oh,
too.
yes.
Like you'll find out, but in a nice way. Like you'll find out some cool stuff that somebody's doing or some new thing that somebody's doing, and it's really super. I mean, I keep using the same word, but it's incredibly supportive.
right.
honestly.
And in the beginning, we were doing pretty good numbers, and I sort of attributed it to having, you know, audio royalty come, like Al Schmidt was there.
Oh, for sure.
Very regularly, unless he was working,
For
he'd
sure.
be there.
And birthdays celebrated.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But in addition to Al, we had, you know, Ed Cherney.
Yep. Rest in peace, Alan.
Oh man, and some other really, you know, Jeff Emmerich
Oh,
was
yeah.
another great guy, and you know, total sweetheart. Obviously, audio royalty.
Best.
And But since those guys have all gone, and then during the pandemic, we were, as you intimated, we were doing a Zoom lunch for about a year.
Yeah.
And now that we're back in person, we have about the same. We have 30 to 60 every week.
Yeah, I
easy.
mean, you're talking a large group of people. And again, people will, if they're in town from another city, if they're in town from Nashville or New York, they'll definitely come. It's a real destination thing
Yeah,
on
and
Wednesdays.
even though there are some copycats like in Memphis and in Nashville,
Are
and
there, though, really?
well, they're trying.
Is it
to
the
be.
same?
Well, also they're the engineers' lunch, and it's once a month. It's not like
Come
every
on.
week.
We eat every day. You know what I mean? Why are you doing it once a month? Or maybe they only eat once a month. I don't know. There you go.
But I was going to say that even though we had the lockdown and we were doing the Zoo thing, now we're back to doing 30 to 60 every week.
Yeah.
And to your point about the out of towners looking forward to coming to LA, and the last 2 weekends or the last 2 weeks of January, we make the restaurant's numbers because we have, the third week is the day before NAMM.
Yep. Then you got Grammys.
And then the following week, that evening is the P&E Wing party at the Village, and then it's the Grammys.
I think
So we have like 90 people.
Yeah.
Guaranteed, easy.
I think they're
each
moving
of
that
those 2
Peony
days.
Wing party to the Grammy Museum. That's where they had it last
Oh,
year.
yeah.
And they might. Absolutely stunning at the Village. Jeff and Tina, unbelievable job. And Lisa Roy, rest in peace, her contribution as well. But Leslie Lewis now, I think, has sort of picked up the baton with Maureen Droney from Peony Wing. And they did it at the museum last year. And it was like 5 or levels or 6 levels. It was super fun.
Wow.
Because they have a rooftop and the weather, we're in Southern California, man. The weather at the end of January, early February is not a big deal. Oh my God, it's 50. What am I going to do?
Put on another sweater.
What are we going to do? But yeah, this is something that we really, that Pete is proud of, and he should be. You should be proud of this. It's this, again, you think you're going to be around forever and that we're all going to be seeing each other for forever. And I think I mentioned in the beginning of the podcast, you're a Capitol alum, obviously. And I think one of the things I mentioned was I walked into Paula's office and I saw those photographs and I'm like, man, I don't have anything. I got like 40 years and very few photographs or whatever. So that was one of the reasons why I wanted to start the podcast. And to have the memories for the people that I've met and known, and to try to talk to some of these, I don't want to say, elders, but yeah, okay, tenured people while they're still around, like Don Randy or whomever. And God, I wish I could have talked to Jeff Emmerich and Al. It'd be so awesome. But AES is coming up, and it's in New York, so maybe I'll put together a lunch in New York. Who knows? It won't be the same as Pete's, and it won't be at Berrigan's, but a lot of the people there will talk about this lunch, actually, and a lot of people will mention it. And it's just, I don't know, it sounds corny, but it's like our church, it's like our fellowship where we all get together and just, talk about the state of the industry and what we're doing and how we're doing it. Again, it's going to be people saying, hey, man, I can help you. I got this gig, or I can't do this gig. Can you do it? It's very, very cool. And it's very, it's just, I'm Southern, so I'm going to say it's a really lovely thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
really
Well,
awesome.
among the nice things that I wanted to make sure it achieved was that kind of family vibe or tribal vibe.
Yeah.
And that, it's a good place to network. Right.
Dude, it's a great place to network.
And not only for finding people of like minds that want to do or could use your services, et cetera.
Yeah.
It's also, a really good opportunity to get your feet wet in Los Angeles, like my new friend.
Yeah, if you have,
Severino.
if you're young, Severino, who's from Emerson next door to me. They have an audio program as well, and God bless Emerson College. They have cool internship too for all their alum. That's amazing for the entertainment industry. They focus a lot on film and TV, directors, all that kind of stuff, but they do have an audio program. Let's not forget that without music or sound, movies would suck. TV shows would suck. So yeah, Pete, I'm so grateful to you for doing it, and it's such a fun thing. I
It
mean,
is.
I don't get to go as often as I like. That's that pesky work thing.
Oh, that,
But
yeah.
you know but the people that are there, they're working people. It's not like the people that are there aren't working. That's another thing. It's just making time to actually go. Nate, I'll take you sometime. Nate's my videographer. He's amazing. But you'll have to, and Keith goes with me. He's my trusty seed. He's recording all this. But yeah, I would say to anyone that hears this or knows about it or sees it on Facebook, it doesn't matter where you're at in your trajectory of your career. If you're a student, if you're starting out, if you're interning, whatever, no, it's going to be the perfect opportunity for you to network, meet your heroes, and
True.
and vice versa for people that are sort of, again, you said coming from another market or whatever. It's going to help you ease into the LA scene.
Yeah,
It's a
and-
welcoming group.
Yeah, it is. And I also think that, sometimes LA gets like this rap of being like really cold and
I
everybody's.
don't think that's true at all.
Well, no, and there are people who've been coming to the lunch for the entire like 8.5 years, right? And
I don't come every week, but I've been coming since the beginning.
but my point is, a lot of people have great friendships, and they only know them through the lunch.
That's true.
They've never worked with them or anything. And
That's true.
And it's I feel very proud of that. It's a good thing.
I mean, it's also, they have a beautiful outdoor patio that you can sit on most of the year, so you get to enjoy the weather.
All right, you
You
are.
know, shoot the breeze with your friends.
Yeah, and it gets really loud when you're inside, so we don't like to do
Yeah,
that.
no, we like it. We like it outside, but inside's fine too. I think that it's really important for people to realize that I think, especially these days, people get so isolated. They're working in their home studio or they're working in their house and they're mixing by themselves or whatever it is they're doing by themselves. And we're not solitary creatures. Okay, we need to be out there and fraternizing and being integrated with people that do what we do, that are like-minded. And the lunch, if you're that guy that's working alone all the time, leave on Wednesday and go to the lunch.
Yeah.
Because you're getting weird, okay? I mean, for you, you work mainly out of a studio in your home now? Mm-hmm. Yeah. But he's an amazing mastering engineer, by the way, and an incredible recording engineer. So people think that they're mutually exclusive. Some people can do both. Pete is one of those people.
Well, I don't do any recording anymore.
But you know how.
I certainly do.
That's right. I mean, you've probably done sessions in the room we're sitting in.
I have, but a long time ago.
But we're in Studio 2 right now at East West, where I have the great fortune to be the manager. Well, Pete, I just want to thank you so much for coming down. I think that it's really important. What is the official title? Like, is there a Facebook title of the group?
It's the LA Audio Lunch Bunch.
The LA Audio Lunch Bunch. So if you
We have
don't
a
know about it, check it out.
We do have a Facebook group. And in case you're wondering about, I don't like to go to this. Yeah. Well, the one slam dunk that
You do have to pick up your own check. So
I was going to say, the good thing is that we get individual checks. It's not like,
dude, 50 people. You know what I mean? Again, God bless the servers and the staff
Yeah.
at Barrigan's.
the guy who is our main waiter,
I love that guy.
Ramiro.
Dude, I don't even go that often, and he remembers what I drink. He remembers what I eat.
I know.
I'm a creature of habit.
After we had a year of being away because of the lockdown of the beginning of the pandemic, we couldn't go meet in person. We only did it on Zoom.
Yeah.
We'd come back, and Ramiro would say, "The usual,"
Yeah.
and he wasn't pulling your chain. He knew exactly what you ate and drank.
Oh, dude, he's a badass. We did lose one of the fixtures at Barrigan's.
Oh, yeah.
Rosa?
Rose.
Oh, Rose. She passed away.
She passed away like coming up on 3 months now, I bet.
Oh, man, what a drag. Cool woman. So, yeah.
And
again,
she was like a couple months away from being married 50 years to her husband, and she was younger than I. They got married early.
married early, yeah.
Yeah.
Super cool, super gracious.
Yeah.
So, again, if you think you're going to be able to see everybody, don't count on it. So go see the people that you love. Go hang out with the people that are like-minded. Go, see if you can help someone, give someone a leg up. you
Well,
know?
like I like to say, it's the best way to see your friends without having to go to a convention or a memorial.
Yeah, my assistant says it's better to be seen than viewed. But that's a maudlin note. We're gonna bring it back up a second before we sign off. But there is no You don't have to fill out an entry form.
Oh.
You can go.
That's correct.
If you're listening to this, or if you're aware of it, if you hear about it, show up. You know, is there any criteria? Oh, be cool. That's a criteria.
Absolutely. That is the criteria.
Is there anything else you'd like to say about just our community in LA or anything like that?
Well, the whole thing started.
Oh yeah, how did it start?
Well, it started because the folks I worked with at Universal Mastering
Yep.
were
Nick
big,
Doffelmeyer.
yeah, and Randy Aronson. Those two guys
Love
were the
him.
bosses, wonderful fellows, and the people who bought. Well, actually, it was the new bosses at Universal decided they were going to get rid of us. Got rid of the four highest paid knuckleheads. That's
Yes,
how
you
they
see a trend
roll.
here.
And then they got rid of the entire mastering department, and they did that at Capitol, who they purchased also 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Initially, the concept was they were going to try and integrate the two studios,
Right.
but Capitol had the iconic recording studios. Universal didn't have anything like that.
Yeah.
Our big moneymaker was the production studios because we had 85 friggin' labels.
Right.
So Capitol didn't have that. I mean, they had a couple of labels.
Now, did this ever have anything to do with MCA Whitney? Didn't they have mastering there as well?
Yeah, and when the MCA Whitney became Universal Mastering.
Was it the same location on Cahuenga Pass?
No.
Oh.
It was in,
This is by the Hanna-Barbera building,
That's-
is where
yeah.
this location was.
yeah, but prior to us moving there in 2009, I think, we were at the corner of Lancashire and Magnolia.
Right.
We were there for I don't know how many years.
Oh, that's right. I forgot you were right there by one-on-one.
Yeah. And so it was, a frequent stop for the guys at Universal to go to Berrigan's.
Oh, right.
And then in 2016, when they decided to close up shop and kick us all to the curb, I wanted to keep it going. And then, all my friends either retired or
Yeah.
moved out of state or whatever.
Right.
So I thought, well, I know plenty of people from having worked at, Hiders and Sunset
Yeah.
and Capitol and Sony, and the word got out, and then
He was only 14 when he started.
yeah,
But yeah, you've kept it going, and it's a testament to you and obviously how awesome you are and how gracious you are and what a lovely friend you've been to me over the years for sure. But yeah, it's important, it's important to give to the people coming up behind you, and it's important for the people coming up to learn from people that have been doing stuff for a while. And just because some giant corporation gets rid of your gig or whatever doesn't mean like you forgot to
Yeah.
do what you know how to do.
yeah. Plus, there's other challenges like AI,
Sure.
or for mastering especially. I mean,
Oh,
it
good.
ain't gonna.
And now mixing.
Yeah, it ain't gonna take my job in the next 5 years or something.
I
But
don't know-
they're
I
gunning
don't know
for
if
it.
AI could do my job.
I don't think so.
Seriously, like
No,
'cause
I don't either.
It's so fluid.
Right.
Like one minute you're buying someone the blue M&Ms, or making sure they have their special rider, and the next minute you're putting out a fire, quite possibly literally a fire.
Right.
But I don't want to talk about this week. This week has been challenging, but always, again, I think it takes a human touch. So whatever you put into AI, it better have a human touch, is all I'm saying. If it's going to come out good on the other side, it better be from something that was magical that we created ourselves. Well, Pete, I just can't thank you enough for coming in, and I think it's really important to talk about this, to talk about the audio
I
launch
couldn't
stuff.
agree more. And I'm glad that you were able to let me do this tag on here.
Oh, hell yeah. LA Audio Lunch Bunch. Candace Stewart, Trade Secrets Podcast. Pete Doell.
Be there or be square.
That's right. Be there or be square. Thank you so much.
Thank you.